Hello, and welcome to Where Do We Start, a podcast where we explore the stars, the self, and everything in between. I'm your host, Amber Mitchell, and if your algorithm is anything like mine, then over the last couple months, starting back in October, your timeline was probably flooded with people talking about winter arcing. Now, if you don't know what I'm talking about, it's basically using the last 90 days of the year to really lock in on your goals and get ahead of the game, get ahead of your New Year's resolutions to start the new year really strong. And while this sounds like a good idea in theory, our bodies just aren't simply wired like that. Nature doesn't really work like that. And there's already so much pressure on the end of the year as like this concrete deadline that everyone has to meet. You're trying to accomplish everything by the end of the year, or you're putting off everything until the start of the year. But this idea of being super productive during the winter months when it's colder and darker out really isn't the way that nature intended for things to be. Now, don't get me wrong, I still think that you can use this time to better yourself and upgrade your life and get ahead on your goals. Hence why I'm making the video. And so it's totally possible for you to change your life in 90 days, but there's a easier and more natural way for you to do this. So if you're anything like me and couldn't really be bothered with the whole winter arc thing back at the start of fall, or you just want to be more aligned with nature and the seasons, and you want to get started on your goals now, then I have some really great tips for you. And you can use these tips at any time of the year. I think they're best for the winter months, but you can really use these at any 90-day period that you set for yourself. Because ultimately, I want you to have a more spiritually aligned and less forced way of accomplishing your goals. So in the Northern Hemisphere, if you don't know already, winter starts at the winter solstice, which is also the start of Capricorn season. And then of course we go into Aquarius season, and then Pisces season, and then Aries season brings in the spring at the spring equinox. And so winter is really a time of dormancy, which really mirrors the necessity for reflection and stillness. And speaking of reflection, we almost always have planets going retrograde during the winter months as well. This year we have Mars going retrograde, and it's going to be retrograde for pretty much the whole winter season. And this in and of itself is a really good indicator that we should be slowing down and not being so focused on doing and go and trying to make things happen quickly, because Mars is a planet of action and drive. And with it being retrograde, so going backwards, this is more of a time to preserve our energy and prepare to use our energy in the most effective way in the future. And I always found it really interesting that winter is the only season that does not contain a fire sign. So of course, for spring, we have Aries as the fire sign. For summer, we have Leo. And for fall, we have Sagittarius. But winter doesn't have a fire sign in it. And I actually think that that is just really another indicator that it's not a time to really be focused on getting things started necessarily, or doing a lot of things and being active. And for some reason, we tend to associate stillness with being unproductive. And that's actually not the case. You tend to be much more productive after you've had a long rest. So your restorative phases are just as important, if not more important, than your super productive and planning phases. But the key really is not just resting just to rest, or resting until you feel energized, but resting with intention. And that's a huge part of what I want to talk about today. You can rest and still be motivated. You can reflect on the past while still being intentional about your future. So I think it's best to break up your 90-day period in 3 sections. So the first 30 days, the second 30 days, and the last 30 days. And of course, using the kind of formula that the signs and the seasons have already laid out for us. So starting with Capricorn season, which is from the end of December to the end of January. And Capricorn is a sign that's all about discipline and hard work and achieving your long-term goals. It is very achievement and rewards based. And so this is a really good time for discipline. And and figuring out the systems that are going to help you stay motivated and stay on top of your goals. So the first thing that you should do is figure out what your long-term goals are. Now, of course, I'm a huge fan of journaling and writing things down, and I think that's one of the best ways to do this is to simply write down all of your long-term goals. And maybe these are things that you just want to accomplish over the next 90 days, or maybe they're long-term goals that you want to accomplish over the next year or 5 years. And this is also a really excellent time to use like a vision board to, document what your long-term goals are. But once you have those goals in mind, and be pretty specific about them, right? Like, don't just put something general on there like write a book. Put more specifically, like, what do you want your book to be about? How successful do you want your book to be? Write out your long-term goals and be pretty specific about them. Really see that vision and see yourself kind of in the end space of what you get out of it. And then the next thing is you really want to figure out your systems that are going to help you stay on top of your goals. Because the fact of the matter is motivation kind of dips up and down. You're not always going to feel super motivated and super productive. And so when you don't, you just want to make it as easy as possible for yourself to not give up. And so this can be things like setting a specific routine, setting a specific health regimen, having an accountability partner, using apps and things that help you. One of the things that I've started doing recently that has helped me tremendously, I feel like I'm so much more productive now that I've started doing this, is the Pomodoro technique. And if you're unfamiliar with that, it's basically where you divide your time when you're working into increments of 25 minutes. So you work for 25 minutes and then take a 5-minute break. And you do this 4 times. And then at the end of the 4 times, you take a longer break of about 25 or 30 minutes. And then you can kind of repeat that if you need to. And this is something that I do all day while I'm working. There's an app that I downloaded on my phone. And so it actually sets the timers for me. And when one timer goes off, when my 25-minute work timer goes off, the 5-minute timer automatically starts, and so on and so on. So that just really helps stay focused. And that's one of my systems that I've started using to really stay on top of my goals. Another thing that I like to do is I like to use the Peloton app for my workouts at home as well as in the gym. And you can schedule your workouts in the app, I think up to 2 weeks in advance. And so I usually schedule them the week before. And so that way, on the day of course, it's on my phone. So it notifies me like, hey, you have a workout starting in 30 minutes. And it's just really easy for me to just hop right in and go straight to the workouts that I've already planned. Even on those days when I kind of don't want to work out, whether I'm working out at home or at the gym, which it's a lot colder out now, so I tend to do my workouts at home. But even with that, if I don't want to, it's like, well, part of the work has already been done for me. I don't have to figure out which one I'm going to do or make a decision based on the hundreds of classes that they have. I've already decided on it. So figure out your systems that will work like that for you. Automating things as much as possible, as well as delegating tasks to other people as much as you possibly can, is really going to help you. And the last thing is to have patience. It's not a race. And Capricorn is an energy that, while it focuses on the long-term goals, it is very patient and very determined. It is not about getting to the top of the mountain as fast as you can. It's just about getting there, right? And I am someone who thinks that you should enjoy that journey. So don't rush it. Just have the patience and know that you are working towards something that, whether you fully accomplish this at the end of the 90 days or not, you will have gotten closer to it. And 90 days is just the boundary that you're setting for yourself. It's the timeline that you're setting for yourself. But ultimately, these are things that you more than likely want to carry on after those 90 days. These are either habits that you want to continue to have, or they're things that you want to maintain once you have them. In that second month is when we get into the Aquarius energy, which is from the end of January to the end of February. And this is where you'll generally see some of the biggest changes. I believe it's said that it only takes about 30 days to form a habit. And this is really a time frame that I think you start seeing change. Once you've been doing something for about 30 days, you really see how it's impacting your life and your body and your environment. But the interesting thing about Aquarius is that it's the paradox of holding your vision and your long-term goals, but also being willing to shift and pivot if needed, being open to exploring kind of what your boundaries look like, being open to taking risks and experimenting. So this is actually the best time. I think once you've been working on your goals from about 30 days to 60 days, it's a really good time to unpack your relationship with discipline, because by now you will have tried to do something for about 30 days and either it worked out or it didn't, but you can kind of reflect on that and see why it didn't work out, right? Was it a matter of discipline? Was it a matter of motivation? Was it a matter of not having correct time management? Was it a matter of allowing other things to distract you? Whatever that may be, you can really focus in on your relationship with discipline. And this is really about knowing what your boundaries are, because Aquarius energy is all about exploring your boundaries, right? Being willing to kind of push them if you need to. And I know, of course, you have to be willing to get uncomfortable in order to see change. And I completely agree with that. You have to be willing to move a little bit out of your comfort zone, do something that might not be, completely normal or something that you're used to in order to see change. But I also strongly believe that you don't have to do something you hate just to get a certain result. You don't have to tolerate or put up with something that is insufferable for you just to get a certain result. I do strongly believe that you should get to enjoy the journey to your goals. There's more than one way to reach a goal, and I truly think that one of those ways can be one that you enjoy. Now, in that final month, so in the last 30 days of your 90 days hard or 90-day winter arc, whatever you want to call it, this is the perfect time to really reflect and prepare for the future. So this is when we get more into that Pisces energy, which Pisces season is from the end of February to the end of March. And like I said, the next season after that is Aries season, which marks the start of spring. And that is actually the start of the astrological year. It's kind of when Pisces is the last sign of the zodiac. So Aries is kind of like our new year, basically. And so in that final month, you're really preparing for the new season, both literally and figuratively. You will have done all of the groundwork, right? Like you figured out what all of your long-term goals are. You've done a lot of planning. You have systems in place, and you've also kind of experimented with what works and what doesn't. And that by itself puts you ahead of the game so that you really know what seeds you want to be planting at the start of spring, aka what things you want to be starting and what things you want to put your energy into, because you want to see them grow and blossom into even bigger and better things. And so this is really the best time to get back in touch with your why you started these things in the first place, why you have certain goals that you have. Everything is energy, and so it all really comes down to the energy you're putting into things and the emotions that you feel towards them. So this is when you're really able to look at things internally, and when the 90 days that you just spent working on something, working towards a goal, or even just kind of resting and preparing to start something new, you can really reflect on what that time taught you about yourself and about why you want to change something about your life. Ultimately, if you're doing this 90-day, habit changing thing, it's because you want to see change in your life. And so this is really a time when things come full circle and you're able to see what worked, what didn't, what goes with you into this next season, what doesn't, and really just reflecting on the whole process of it. And at this point, you have a full and complete perspective of what your long-term goals are, what works for you, why you want to continue towards these goals. And this way, you can really hit the ground running at the end of that 90 days, or you will have completed a short-term 90-day goal. And the biggest thing about Pisces is that it's about transcendence and transformation and renewal. And you will definitely, after doing something for 90 days, you will definitely see a huge change from where you were to where you are now. And that's really the beauty of it. Honoring that change and your ability to change your life in that time frame really just shows you that you can accomplish anything and you can change your life going forward. You don't need to set periods of 90 days. I think it really helps sometimes just to have that timeline for yourself, but knowing that any time frame that you give yourself working towards something, you will see a change. So I really hope that you enjoyed this episode and that you found it helpful. If you did, please be sure to like, review, and subscribe. And if you're going to be starting a 90-day like winter arc or 90 days hard or whatever you want to call it, if you're going to be starting something like that, let me know down in the comments what some of your goals are and what some of the ways that you're going to stay on track with your goals now. Now, if you want a more in-depth personalized guide to your winter arc, I do have one over on my Patreon. So definitely be sure to join us over there because it goes really in depth based on your birth chart and your planets. You don't have to know how to read your birth chart just to use this. You just have to know some of your placements and I can help you in figuring that out. And once you have that, it's really customized to knowing like kind of what your aesthetic should be if that's something you want to focus on, how you should plan your money goals, your career goals, the best routines and workouts for you based on your signs. So if you're interested in that, then definitely head over to Patreon. And I've also got a wealth of other information over there too. But until next time, take care and keep on shining.